Hi everyone, Bradley here with with another update. Um, yeah, it's been probably a little bit over 6 months since my last update, maybe something like that. Maybe 5 months. Um, I didn't put out a update with my last scan like 3 months ago. So this is like 2 scans worth of catching up. Yeah, so my last scan 3 months ago was similar to the one before that. You know, one of the cleanest scans that I've received, you know, during my whole treatment journey. In that there wasn't anything like new or questionable or anything like that, and so that was good. That was like a big there's a lot of like anxiety around that scan in particular because it was like like basically marking my nine months on this current treatment, which the longest effective treatment that I had been on up until that point stopped being effective around 9 months. And before that, the longest effective any of my treatments have been was around 5 or 6 months. So like a 9 month mark with a clean scan was really anxiety producing and big. So then this most recent scan that I did just 2 weeks ago, or series of scans, I guess, was marking basically a year with this treatment. So even more anxiety, even more kind of weight to the scan of, you know, is it going to be a year of disease-free treatments, or, you know, is this going to be the turning point? You know, what's going to happen? And yeah, and so I did my routine CT scan maybe 2 weeks ago, something like that, and it showed that basically my treatments were continuing to work generally, and really only showed, it wasn't as clean as my other 2 scans, I guess, and it showed a new potential growth in my liver, where before that there wasn't any new growth, and all of the things that were there were being reduced in size. And because the scan wasn't like super clear on whether it was a tumor, like an ill-defined tumor, or a weird like fatty deposit or something like that, me and my oncologist decided to move forward with another scan, pause treatments, and move forward with another scan to get better imaging, right? Because a CT scan is kind of routine. An MRI is a little bit more involved in terms of, you know, a CT scan like takes 10-15 minutes, an MRI takes like 45 minutes. You know, you're stuck in that little machine with the loud noises for a lot longer. But it's also a lot better imaging, quality, definition, resolution, all that. So you get better quality data, more clear data from that type of scan. So I did CT scan. It showed this new potential spot in my liver. We paused treatments. to gauge kind of like the next steps from there. And then we did this, or I did this MRI, and the results of the MRI came back like, yep, that spot is a new spot. And also two of the older spots, like previous, like tumors that were previously there and have been there for a while, that were shrinking or being stable, have now grown. So I went from, and also with the asterisks, with the stipulation of that this might be the perception of the increase in size of the tumors might be due to the better accuracy of the imaging, right? So on the CT scan, they might still be that size, but because it's a lower quality imaging, we might only be seeing them as that size. So now that we have a better quality image, we're actually seeing them for this size. So it looks like they've grown, but in reality, it's just, the clarity of the image, and the information that we can kind of assess from that image. So yeah, I went from having two of my cleanest scans to going back to these weird, that's a thing, maybe, sort of. Could be not. Let's keep an eye on it. Which, like the lack of assurity is a little bit more comforting than the, yep, it's totally clean. More familiar with it, I guess. But yeah, I went from, having these two clean scans to one scan that kind of showed something is going on, and then, that follow-up scan showed, yep, something really seems like something's going on, but, like, not a lot, right? So, like, generally, these are good scans. Both my CT and my MRI are, like, 90% good scans, I guess. And kind of how I'm moving forward, for a variety of reasons, is just kind of continuing with my treatments. So I'm going to, from taking the break from the last couple of weeks, restart my treatments tomorrow, and then instead of a scan in 3 months, I'm going to have a scan in like 6 weeks or 8 weeks, right? Like a month and a half, 2 months, to keep a closer eye on these spots and the potential progression. And that choice to continue rather than do any other types of treatments or explore other options is primarily because the treatments are mostly working, right? Like all of the cancer that was in my liver, other than these spots, is stable, not progressing. The cancer in my pancreas, my lymph nodes, the stuff up in my chest, the cancer in the bones in my hips and things, is all stable, aside from these few small spots. So that, combined with the lack of standard treatment options, moving forward, is just kind of, and my also choice to not continue with non-standard treatments, is kind of the reason why, my oncologist and myself agreed that just kind of continuing on the same course, but with a little bit closer eye on what's going on, is kind of like the best course of action. Yeah, so that's kind of like medically where I'm at, what's going on with my treatments and everything. I the things that I kind of want to move forward with, or talk about what's been on my mind is these are things that have been heavily on my mind and weighing heavy on me and have really impacted what's been going on, as well as kind of like me experiencing these patterns in my life. So yeah, that's how things have been going, like medically for me. In my life, like personally, I'm struggling with a lot of things in terms of a lot of these like patterns or things kind of like coming to a head. In the last 6 months, I have lost or had to renegotiate relationships that were very close to me, from like my parents splitting up, my father moving out, and that whole relationship dynamic, to the oncologist. I have a new oncologist, by the way. That's something that happened in between my last checkup and this checkup. And I lost this, or I didn't lose him, but he's no longer working with me as an oncologist, right? Like our relationship is becoming redefined in a different way. But that he was with me since the start, and like anyone who has heard me talk about him, or even in these videos, like I love him, he's amazing, like I couldn't have done this and been here without him in a lot of different ways, or it would have been a lot less pleasant. We can joke and we can connect and we can have these difficult conversations, and like I really feel seen, and that's something that I think is going to come up as I talk, is this idea of being seen, really feeling that from him, and then also losing or ending my relationship with my partner and girlfriend, and that is a big one, right? All three of these people were really in my close immediate support team, and for whatever reason, the variety of reasons, they had to move on, I had to move on, we've had to renegotiate, we lost the nature of what our relationships were before, and kind of having to change and either collaborate on what that renegotiated relationship looks like. With my oncologist, it's like, all right, we'll text each other every once in a while and we'll get lunch, rather than seeing him every 2 weeks, every week for treatments, for whatever, being able to talk to him. I really like my new oncologist, and also he's very much more of like a doctor, and that's not good or bad, I really appreciate that, and also I just like felt I had such a connection with my last oncologist, and yeah, and like as these relationship things and these patterns, big and small in my life, have been playing out, and I've been seeing my role in them and others' roles in them, and kind of really looking at the dynamics of these things, and like I learned a new word recently. It's called metanoia, like paranoid, like paranoia, but metanoia. So I guess I'm a metanoid. uh, Metanoia is like the ongoing process of reforming and creating new, and that's very much something that I try to embody. So as I'm taking this time to kind of reflect on these relationships and losing relationships and having new relationships start and old relationships, important relationships coming back into my life and negotiating them as well, and losing other important relationships and redefining important, right? Like all of this stuff that's been going on in these situations and people that I'm encountering. You know, part of me being engaging in this metanoia and just having that be like kind of like a part of who I am is that reflection, and taking that time to really analyze my role in it, other people's roles, you know, these dynamics. Which can definitely be exhausting. Like, I get why people bury their heads in the sand. It's a lot more, it's comfy down there. And also, I would rather be awake and aware than have my head in the sand, for me, and be comfortable. So, one of the ways that I think and kind of talk and relate is through metaphor. And this is kind of like symbolism. Right? Like if Jesus spoke in parables, I speak in metaphor. Like if that's his primary vehicle of communicating ideas and concepts, mine is metaphors, right? These kind of bridging two unlike ideas, disparate ideas, incongruent things, and you know, through the beauty of the metaphor, the symbolism, whatever, like you can be like, oh, like, you know, night is kind of like day and black kind of is like white, and like I get the connection, and moon is like the sun, or you know, like whatever, these two seemingly really you know, religion is like science. These two seemingly very different ideas and concepts, bring them together, and you know, I love metaphor. So you know, thinking about all these things and all of this kind of like swirling around in me, I participated in a ceremony recently, and one of the things that came up in this ceremony was this, and in all ceremonies really, this concept of mirroring. And when this learning came back to me in this ceremonial setting, and this idea of mirroring kind of like snapped into place for me, of this metaphor of kind of how I was conceptualizing working with these relationships and these relationship patterns and all of these different threads and connections throughout the course of my life, right? Like I say a lot recently, like I'm emotionally aging in reverse, like emotionally aging in reverse, Benjamin Button. You know, when I first moved back, you know, it was like going back to high school and feeling all of these high school feelings while my parents were going through their divorce within the last year. It was like me reliving like my 8 to like 7-year-old childhood and like the feelings that were coming up, and now it's like I'm almost at like toddler dumb and working with these attachments and these really important caregiver nurturing partnership relationships, and how as like an adult who's done a lot of work and introspection and everything, like I can go back to those places and that feeling and experience what I experienced as a 8, 9, 7, 10-year-old child, right? And work through those feelings now as an adult who has those coping skills and can reintegrate those experiences, right? Like I forgot so much of my childhood. I've for consciously or unconsciously really put that away. And part of this during this time is like these memories coming up and like me reintegrating these like childhood things, and so I'm not like, ooh, like that was bad, that was, like I don't want to look at that, or I can't remember that. It's no, I'm a capable full adult now, and that I am in a place that I can feel these painful feelings and this bad and go, yeah, that was bad, that wasn't good, that was icky and hurtful for me, and then work with those feelings now and integrate them and be like, yep, and that's who I am, and that's how I became me, and that's part of my being this perfect self as well as like my absolute broken self all at the same time. Is this integration. I've done a lot of like inner child work over the years, and during this time, my inner child for that kind of age range, that 7 to 10, he doesn't speak, or he never really spoke to me over the years of me working with him, and it was really, he stays in my bedroom, in my childhood bedroom, as it was then. I had bunk beds. Never slept, never had any of my siblings living in the room with me, but I had bunk beds, and whatever else, and so he stays in that room, and that room is always dark, and he's always in bed, and doesn't speak. And I've really worked with him over years, and almost like, the way that I kind of talk about it is almost like a stray animal. Like the first couple of times that I worked with him, I recognized like I can't come into his room. I can't come into his space. So, I'd knock on the door and kind of talk to him through the door. And then eventually I felt I could knock and crack open the door and kind of peek in, right? That door right there, I could kind of peek in and see him in his bed, where his bed's set up for, me right here. Like I kind of peek in and say, I see you, like you're so cute, like I'm glad that we're talking, I'm letting like a little crack of the light in. And then it got to the point where I could open up the door more and more, and it was more and more okay, and then I could come into the room and sit with him and talk to him, but it really was like working with like a stray animal, of trying to kind of like, oh yeah, stretching, we're talking about animals, you're like, I'm an animal, I'm a cutie, you're not a stray though. Of kind of like coaxing, showing that I'm safe, showing that I'm somebody who can be comfortable around, in these like small ways, and still he never spoke to me, and I'd ask questions, but they weren't like, you need to speak to me. It was, I have questions, and if you want to answer them, amazing. If not, cool. And there was a situation with my father and kind of this dynamic, and everything came to a head, or one of the times that they came to a head. And afterwards, I checked in with like this inner child that I work with, that I carry in me, that is me. And I was like, oh, this is a thing. And he spoke to me for the first time, and he said, "I hate you," which was really hard to hear, and also like it was so beautiful because he had never spoken before, and that he finally felt comfortable enough to open his mouth, to advocate, to tell me his feelings, right? And say, like, you as an adult, like, you should have protected me. I hate you for not. And yeah, so I kind of talked to him, and I was like, yep, like, I get it. And now that I am an adult, I am doing it. Like, thanks, guy. Like, I appreciate that. I gotta let Freya out of my room. Yeah. Over here making noises. Bye-bye. Or hop up. Either one. You're staying or going. Bye. Love you. Yeah, and so I think that that's a good example in terms of like, oh, you're coming back in? Yeah, hop back up. Or not, whatever. In terms of like my reflection process, in terms of how I relate to myself. And so going back to this idea of mirrors, right, that's like the visual that I kind of have, and the metaphor that I kind of am working with and kind of talking about is like we all carry these like kind of double-sided mirrors, right? Like this side is shiny outwards to you, and this side is shiny inwards to me, but also we can kind of like see through it, like almost like a two-way mirror, right? We can kind of like see through it but still see that reflection, and right, but this is like us. This is like our like true self. But this is, if you want to call it like the ego, the, whatever, right? It's how we relate and see to one another, right? And so, or ourselves, right? So for me, like this example of the inner child that I'm working with is this side of my mirror, right? It's like my reflection to myself. So I see that my inner child telling me that it hates me is me at that time telling that to my adult caregivers, right? And like that is how I'm relating to myself now, is that this deep-seated self-hatred, or not self-hatred, or this animosity towards myself of you didn't protect me, is something that like I've internalized and worked with, and like without having this relationship, having this mirror with my child, I would have never have been able to like identify that and see that. And so I think that like that's how we relate to the world in a lot of ways. And the reason that this came up in ceremony is because in a lot of ways, in the ways that that I've been involved with ceremony, is that that there's always that mirroring, right? As above, so below. There's always this mirroring. And so whether it's the person who's asking for ceremony for whatever reason, whether that's healing, gratitude, thanks, etc., like that is mirrored back to them from the person who's putting on the ceremony, right? So like the healee to the healer, or the person asking for ceremony versus the person putting on the ceremony, right? And so that is a metaphor, or that can be a mirror, right, of the interactions that are happening from and through the medicine person, the priest, the doctor, the whatever, is a reflection back, a magnified, like, spirit-helped reflection back for this person. And then at that same time, right, as their work is going on, that person, the person who's asking for healing, asking for ceremony, asking for gratitude, is also a reflection for all of the supporters, all of the people around them, all of their friends and family and people that they influence, right? Everybody who's at that ceremony, because we sit there and go, you know, this person is talking about this wound, this pain, this suffering that they're experiencing and their journey with it, and we can go, wow, that sounds really like me, that's crazy. And then, so this is them doing their healing about something that is so reflective of me. Maybe I can do my healing, right? Like, there's these reflections and this, like, ripple effect. And I think that that's just the way that we kind of relate, right? Like, in a lot of ways, like, we are, like, ultimately and truly alone. And I think that that's something that, you know, I've talked about, like, being seen earlier. Like, I, for a variety of reasons, have kind of always felt not seen. And that's been, like, okay with me for the most part, in terms of, like, I know that I have weird interests, I know that I'm, you know, an introvert, I'm not necessarily out, like, engaging, you know, all of these things have kind of set me up to be a little bit of an outsider, right? Whether that has been an unconscious or conscious choice of mine, who I am, or how I've made myself be, you know, is one thing, but I'm relatively comfortable with that. And also, you know, just as everybody else, like, I do still have that desire to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged, and I find that really difficult. And when I do find that in people, I really connect with that. But that's, like, you know, how much of me is going. Do you see me back here behind my mirror? Do you see me? I can't see. There's something in the way, right? Like, oh, hey, how? I'm Bradley. How? It's nice to. Oh, all right. Okay, right. And I feel like that's a lot of the interactions that we have with strangers, with friends and family, right? We just have this desire to be like, this is me, right? And what all of that means, right? The confidence and the wholeness and the embodiment and the wisdom and the knowledge that comes along with remembering that you aren't this mirror or any of the reflections, or that other people aren't the mirror or the reflections, but that you and them are these things, right? You're the thing behind the mirror. And then even that, you can probably remove that even further and be like, how much of that is your meat puppet ego self, and how much of that is a reflection to your higher self, your spiritual self? Anyway, not going there. Just talking about these relational mirrors right now. But right, and so I think that lots of people identify with the mirror, or maybe their own reflection in that mirror, or maybe their reflection in other people's mirrors, right? And they go, well, that's me over there. What am I doing over here? Right? Whoa, why, right? That person. But really, that's that person's mirror, right? That other person's mirror. That's not them. It's not even, their mirror that they're holding isn't even them. And I think that identification with that mirror, or the lack of willingness to not identify with that, right? Like, that is our ego, right? There's a reason that we have our ego and that we operate in this way, right? Survival, species survival, right? Like, there's a reason. And it's not necessarily good or bad, but what serves us, right? And what serves us in a way that we want. Because unfortunately we don't choose this life in general, right? I didn't talk to my parents before they conceived me to be like, you know what? I sign up for this. I'm about it. Proceed. No, they did it, and based on the consequences of their actions, I am here now. We all are. None of us chose this. And so we might be given, in the same way that we are forced into this life, we are given at least what our mirror initially starts off with, in terms of these formative caretaking relationships, right? And for some people who have those secure relations, they get a nice, crisp, circular, beautifully polished and shining silver disc that they can go, wow, I really see myself in this. And I see myself accurately and completely, and then, oh, I can see you clearly too. Wow, that's really nice. I know who I am, and I can see that you are who you are, and I see the mirrors, right? Like, ooh, like, I'm secure, and then other people get, on the other side of that. I've met like one person who I could be like, you have a really clear mirror, from the get-go. And the other side of that is like getting funhouse mirrors, right? They're warped and twisted and dirty and scuffed up from the abuse and other people not taking care of their mirrors and being like, I'm this reflection and I hate this reflection, so I'm going to like, ugh. And then they went, oh, this child that I brought in, here you go, here's the mirror I'm working with. Because that child is ultimately a mirror for them. And the sacrifice being a parent is to sacrifice your own life, right, for that child. And some people don't do that, don't want that, and so they, this warped mirror reflection, resentment, right? Like, not only am I going to try to live my life through you because I see myself in you, but I also hate you and resent you and won't let you flourish as you truly are because of my resentment towards myself due to my choices. Right, and so people start off with like funhouse mirrors or tarnished mirrors or shattered mirrors, and they go, oh, that's me and all of these broken pieces that are scattered on the floor. That's me, and I can't fix that. And that causes these, this way of relating to the mirrors is like projection, right? Like, if the way that you identify with yourself is this broken, shattered funhouse mirror, all of everyone else's reflection in that will be just as distorted. Right? As you're looking through your mirror, right, that distortion happens. And those projections happen, and that miscommunication, these two people behind the mirror going, I really like you. I love you over there. Hey, like, you're awesome, right? Because that's who that person is, right? That perfect and broken, complete, sees that in other people and goes, I like you regardless of all that. And not regardless, but because of all that and more, right? Like, I see that you are more than the sum total of your parts. And like, I love that. I want to be with that. But then we're relating through these mirrors with these mirrors and being like, yeah, but it's dirty and dusty. And so it's like, oh, well, you're untrustworthy, right? You can't be trusted. I don't trust you. But then that person goes and does something to betray trust. That person goes and does something incredibly untrustworthy, right? And you go, well, that's not me. I am trustworthy. I do, right? Like, but it's the mirror, right? They're engaging with their own projection, right? They can't get past that. Right? And you can see it in like a variety of spectrums, to the people who are like, you're cheating on me, I know it. A lot of the times they're the ones who are being unfaithful, being dishonest, right? And they're saying, I know you are doing this because I am doing this. I can do this. I am this way. I see it. But it's like, you're doing this because you don't want to acknowledge that mirror, that tarnish is there, right? Because you're identified with it. And I'm like thinking out loud here too, right? Like I said, that this is kind of like a framework that I've been like working with, and it's really helped me to kind of see a lot of things really differently, and have like movement internally with relating how I relate to myself and to others, because I think that me being a metanoid, and having this throughout my life, just this desire, this absolute urge to reform and to continue to progress and to know myself, has allowed me to, that process when we engage in healing work and introspective work and whatever, like, that's us being like, oh, I'm gonna polish up my mirror. Ooh, I'm gonna try to straighten out its funhouse ripples, right? Ooh, I'm gonna polish that silver disc so it shines, right? And the fun thing about our mirrors is that they have like memory to them, right? So we're going, oh, I'm doing all this work, I'm polishing it. Look at this, it's straight and shiny, and then that creepy uncle who we had experiences with comes in, and that mirror goes, I'm this, right? Like, I deserve that, or I'm this way, right? And then we got to go, oh, okay, back to working and polishing, and right, and eventually this becomes the memory of the mirror, right? Not this, but this. And also the accurate reflection, right? Like, of being like, oh, I do see myself in there, right? Like, as you're like, you're going, oh, that's me. I do see, oh yeah, that's me. Oh, that's nice. It's good to see you. It's good to meet you. And then you can go, oh, well, that's not me. This is me. This is a mirror, right? And that's the other part about like introspective work, is that you get to go, I'm going to put down the mirror and I'm going to know what I look like in a variety of different situations, in a variety of different mirrors, and in the dark and in the light. I'm going to know what this is, so that when I see myself in my mirror and it's not this, I go, that's weird. Like, do I need to polish that? Do I need to whatever, is that just a smudge I can wipe off, or is that actually like that person, right? Like is my reflection from others how I see myself, right? Or am I being distorted in their funhouse mirror, in their dirty mirror, in their cracked mirror, in their, whatever way the metaphor works, right? Like, no, I know I'm not a shattered, multi-pieced thing, or I know that I'm not, 4'2", right? In the little funhouse mirror, right? Like, no, yep, cool, right? And I think that can be really scary for some people who are so identified with the mirror, with the reflection, that they go, you're not, that's, what? Who are back there behind the mirror? There's nobody back there. Right? Who are you? Why aren't our mirrors doing stuff? Right? And so there's like a level of like detachment and letting go, and not identifying with these mirrors, these reflections, either with yourself or from others, with others. And also, like, that's, especially since my diagnosis, like, I've even had to separate even further, of being like my love for everyone around me needs to be coming from a place where I have to be able to let go. And so, and with myself, right? Like, I'm in a rental car right now. A rental car with a check engine light on that is going pep, 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 and everybody else is on the highway, right? And like, you know what I mean about the metaphors? But I know that at some point I'm gonna have to get out of that car, right? I can't go, ooh, this is my favorite vehicle, I love it so much, it was my first car, I don't want to part with it, like, plap, 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 plap. No, guy, like, I'm gonna get out and like push, no, I'm gonna get out, right? And in some ways that's made it easier for me to feel seen by myself and to feel like I'm truly seeing and interacting with others. There's been people in my life that I have loved and not treated well, not treated poorly, but just not treated well, and it was because of these reflections and these projections. And and that separation has kind of allowed me to see beyond that and go, oh wow, I see you behind there with that mirror. I love all the stuff that you've got going on, and I do appreciate that, and I see why and how the reflection is happening, and whatever else, like, I understand. And in a lot of ways it's allowed me to have a deeper love, a deeper appreciation for these people in my life, as well as myself. And at the same time, it can be really challenging because I feel so much more removed than I did before. So much less being able to be seen. And that the effort other people need to do to have the framework to relate to me, to kind of be on my level, is so much that most people, like, I don't blame them. It's not the thing. Right? They're dealing with their own, right? Totally. And so it's, I think that that's the beauty of this world, this material world, the beauty of ceremony, the beauty of relationships is that it is ultimately all of us, relating with our relatives and also with ourselves. To know yourself is to know others, is to know God, right? We're relating with ourselves to know others better, to truly know others better, and to see them better, and to see that, oh yeah, okay, so like, this is us relating here, but you're really this. I get to know myself with the mirror, but I get to know others with myself, and I get to know God by going, oh, that's not me either. That's my rental car, right? My rental car is that one. And so, yeah, like, get to know yourself, know others, know God, right? I'm my mirror, I'm my rental car, I'm none of those things, and all of them. And like, having that knowledge and that self-knowledge allows you to be able to relate better and better, but also, in a lot of ways, puts up more barriers. It's harder to find people who are kind of on that level and who've done that work and can appreciate it on that level. And this is also like healing in relationships. But yeah, I don't really have any good conclusions or, this is what I've come up with kind of engaging with this metaphor. So, my hope as always is that, we can be a mirror for each other, and that, watching this video and being with me in this way, transcending space and time, can act as a mirror for you, and that this is another tool of reflection, to see what's yours and what's not yours, to see who you are and who you're not, who gave you that mirror, who smashed it, who warped it, how did you contribute or didn't contribute, right? Like, I think that's the beauty of metaphors, symbolism, poetry, art, any of these things, is that it's like how, when your partner says something to you and goes, I think that you should eat vitamins and eat more fruit. And then you go, all right, guy, right? Even though it's one of the most, it's the people that you care the most about in the world and that you value their opinion the most, but then you hear it from, one of your coworkers of being like, like vitamins are really good, you should start eating them, and you're like, wow, definitely, I should start eating vitamins, right? And your partner's like, bro, what? Like, how? And so I think that metaphors, symbolism, poetry, art, these creative ways of engaging are that for us, right? They're the ways that we can hear what we couldn't hear before, what we could see, what we couldn't see before, or see them in a different way, hear them in a different way. And I think that's beautiful. I love it. And I think that the last thing that I want to say is kind of share this this kind of quote from a post of thing called the School of Life. And so oh, just kidding. Oh, yeah, alright, no. Found it. Our complaint against dying is ultimately an admission that we haven't learned how to live. The goal shouldn't be to stretch time out yet further. We should be ready to go pretty much any time after, it says 4 decades on this busy planet, but any time on this busy planet. Sad to leave, of course, but neither devastated nor incensed. Our fingers should pry themselves lightly from the handrail. We'll have learned to live and properly deserve the gift we've been given once we know how to say with a relatively crisp, relatively untragic, darkly amused goodbye. And I love that. We'll have learnt how to live and properly deserve the gift we've been given once we know how to say a relatively crisp, relatively untragic, and darkly amused goodbye. And yeah, this is something that I've been working on myself. As this video goes to show, I'm working on the relatively crisp part of that goodbye. The darkly amused I got, the untragic I got, but the concise, short, I'm still working on it. As always, of course, thank you for being with me here in this way. Because it's hard for me to relate, it's hard for me to relate. And this is something I feel very strongly about and very comfortable with, that I do feel like I can share myself and kind of not have to worry about being seen, not have to worry about feeling any type of way, right? That I can just kind of put it out there and say, yep, this is what I'm learning. Hope it helps, and I'm excited to learn from you. So yeah, thank you so much. Home Takuyasin. We'll be